I am my best self for others when I am my best self for myself too. My therapist was like, well, if you don't spend time working out, which helps you with your panic attacks, helps you feel your best, helps with your energy levels, you're not going to be your best for your job, your family, etc. So it was prioritizing that, but also where you spend your time is showing what's important to you. And if you're not making yourself important, why do you expect other people to?
Welcome back to the You Need a Counselor podcast. This is a show presented by Heart and Solutions Counseling Agency. We release new episodes every Sunday at 5 p.m. Central and encourage you to batch up that laundry, put away the dishes, plan for the week ahead, or do any other task that might seem daunting while you give our show a listen. You might just be encouraged to call your therapist, connect with this week's guest, or seek out those services you've been considering for a while but haven't made the commitment to yet. If you are in the state of Iowa and are in need of mental or behavioral health counseling, give us a call at 1-800-531-4236. Enjoy the show.
Hello, and welcome back to the You Need a Counselor podcast. My name is Dr. Julie Johnson. I'm the president and founder here at Heart and Solutions, mental health counseling and behavioral health counseling in Iowa.
And I'm Chrissa Hunt. I am our Vice President in charge of the Behavioral Health Department. And this is our podcast, You Need a Counselor. So we are designed for people curious about counseling, but have barriers keeping them from experiencing the benefits of counseling. Our mission is to share stories about counseling, good, bad, and indifferent, and spread the message that everyone can benefit from mental health and behavioral health counseling services.
Our guest today is Jessica Tepas. Jessica describes herself as an expert at being a beginner. And I think that's something that so many of us really need practice with, is being a beginner at things. As adults, we end up feeling like we should be experts at things, that we should know things, that we should be things by this point. And Jessica's approach is really different to that. Jessica is a successful speaker, a writer, an entrepreneur, a director, an executive, and an investor. She has a background in a master's in biological sciences, a bachelor's in marketing, and a minor in British literature. Kind of an expert on learning how to be and helping other people learn how to be, and how to be starts with being a beginner. So welcome, Jessica. Thanks for being here on the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
So now tell us a little bit about what started you kind of in this supportive role for other people, helping people to be inspired by your journey.
Yeah, so it actually started back basically when I was getting out of school. So I graduated my undergraduate in 2009, and in 2010 was when I began my first blog. And the blogs at the time were just little Tumblr blurry pictures. I still actually have mine live just because I like looking back at it sometimes. And at the time, it was just purely to stay in touch with family and friends, because I have family primarily all over the place. I mean, we have people abroad, et cetera. And it was really the only way I could think of to stay in touch with people as I was going through that journey and moving into new states and nations and that kind of thing. Over time, I was working in marketing research at the time, and I loved my job. But over time, it just became something that was this overwhelming, compelling, need to almost be comfortable sharing my story, but not even just my story, because I found that it was an outlet for other people to be comfortable sharing their stories as well. So really, authenticity ended up becoming the major theme, if I'm being honest. So the blog led to more of a social presence. So now there are millions of people that read that blog still every single month. And I don't even think that they realize that they're reading a blog. It's just like a website that they come to. But that ended up catapulting into a consulting and fractional CMO business. So I started working with female-owned small businesses primarily. And over time, I just wanted to continue helping people become more comfortable with where they currently are in their life's journey and where they are in their story, and helping them get to the next phase and whatever that looked like for them. The master's in biological sciences, if I'm being honest, that came around with, it's a master's in teaching in biological sciences. So it's a slightly different tint, but that came around more out of passion than anything else. It was just, I love research. I'm like the nonfiction nerd reader and like that kind of thing. And it was an opportunity for me to get involved in conservation and in nature. So, I mean, I was part of the reintroduction of wild species and like really cool projects throughout that program. But what it taught me that I actually applied to my daily life more than anything else is on our patterns of behavior and our ways of thinking and how our brains and bodies work and how consistency can really change it. So it was really more of a habit creation more than anything else that catapulted me to the next level of that. And that's where a lot of my speaking and coaching has really built into there as well. So it's how can I continue taking that message to broader and broader audiences is how it's really transitioned over time. But female-owned small businesses is my main niche. But beyond that, it's really just helping women primarily be comfortable with their authentic life journey.
Awesome. Can you talk about what you notice people struggle with, specifically with female-owned small businesses? Is it different as opposed to male-owned businesses or opposed to bigger businesses?
Yeah. Well, so, and I do want to share too, it's not exclusively women that I work with. It is broader, but it ends up becoming women quite a bit because we have a lot of consistent things that come up. I'm sure that both of you and many of your audience will likely be familiar with it, but there's a lot of different things that when we come together and we share our stories as a group, like at conferences or, in, more of a counselor setting, such as yourselves, or even just amongst really close group of friends or family that we end up having on a regular basis. So things such as imposter syndrome, or a lot of times shame or fear of judgment from others, I think is something that is very consistent. I work a lot, some of my coaching business is purely around social media. So helping people become comfortable posting on social media as they start businesses. So that's the coaching tint that I work with. And almost always it's just people being so scared to like film themselves or share a picture of themselves or thinking that they're going to do something wrong. One of the benefits of social media I found over time is that you're not going to break it. Unless you take a very polarizing tint where that it is scary and political or something like that, you're probably not going to lose all of your followers. And honestly, your post's probably not going to be seen by all of your followers. Just get the content out there. So it's almost habit creation of just getting comfortable being uncomfortable, and then you stop noticing it. You just keep going. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, it reminds me of this podcast, to be honest. In 2020, Chrissa and I said, "Hey, let's start a podcast." Right? We needed a place for energy to go at that point, with all of the lockdowns, and so we said, "Look, let's start this." We had no idea how to do it. We had no idea what to do. The idea of being on camera every single week was terrifying. And we took a training that it was a 1 hour training, and it said start a podcast in 24 hours, right? And we said there's no way. And we took that training and we said, okay, we're just going to hit record. Like we're going to make a terrible, terrible episode. And then we just kept making them, right? Yeah. They became less and less terrible as we went. And now as we do it, we'll film 3 at a time. We'll go, this is okay, right? Because it turns into, it is that habit creation. We've got to create that first product. We've got to create something that when you look back on it, you go, I don't want to watch those first 5 episodes, right? Because we were coming into it, but you've got to hit record in order to, move forward and continue to do it. So I just love that it is habit. And then we don't notice when we're creating those habits until we look back on them. So when we think back and we go, oh yeah, it's kind of old hat now, right? When we think about what's old hat. And it's those things that we can put into our system and into our habits so that we don't have to consciously think about them anymore until we're actually consciously thinking about it. And then we can really see those patterns and habits that we put into place. Yeah.
Well, and if you don't mind me adding on, I mean, one of the things that I think is so fascinating too is that we become inspired by each other, right? So I'll see your podcast and I'll see you doing the cool thing and just giving it a go. And even honestly, you probably are editing it more in your mind or commenting, right? We're our own worst critic most of the time. So, I would see yours and think it's amazing. My mother actually, so she turned 66 this year, and on her birthday, she released her first YouTube video. So she randomly started a YouTube channel. She didn't tell anyone she was going to do it. Can I plug her really quickly? Is that okay? Okay. So Jeanette Tepas, Walk With Me is the channel, and it's 20-minute walks. She's a European tour manager. So she walks all around the world, and it's just 20-minute walks. It's like designed for like walking on a treadmill. I think they're amazing. Of course, every time we talk though, she's like, I don't know. I'm like breathing heavy in this section. I didn't have the gimbal because I didn't know what it was going to be. But I would never notice any of that. And in your first podcast, right? Like you I'm sure have like edited an intro or like got a different editor or something like that because you didn't even think about it before. It wasn't something that you even know it had to be fixed, quote unquote. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. We'll have to look up your mom. That's fun.
Yeah.
So how do you help people kind of get over that like fear of judgment of posting or like have no idea what to post or where to get started? Like what kind of advice do you give them even for like their first post or what they should post first?
Yeah. So I have two keynotes. One keynote, so when I do my public speaking, these are the two main messages, and I promise it's going to lead into your answer here. So the first one is about resilience, but it ends up being about hope, and it's ways to train our brain to become more hopeful. And a lot of it is repeating specific habits on a regular basis so that our brains can recognize hope and really become more resilient rather than reactive is the way that that's designed. And then the second one is maintaining mental health in a social media world. So it's how can we actually adapt how we interact with social media so that it is positive and community building rather than, I know you two know about the brain way more than even I ever would, but it's rather than just letting our brains run us and, seeing the novelty and continuing to scroll and like that kind of thing. So it's how can we actually adapt our habits with everything? So I think to your answer, and hopefully I'm answering the question, but it's a lot of it is not only just do it, but actually have a reason for doing it up front. So make sure that you're talking to somebody. So a lot of times I'm going to have them personify their brand. Or if you're even just wanting to get comfortable sharing out, if somebody's just wanting to get comfortable with social media in the first place, I'll have them start an account not attached to their name whatsoever. So they just get very comfortable just getting it out there and that kind of thing. And normally that's what I'll do even for myself when new social media pillars come out. So that's when TikTok came out. That's what I did. Or when everyone had to migrate off of TikTok and go on to Lemonade. So I just wanted to start an account. I don't want it to be connected with me. I just want to get used to the user interface and just sharing it out there, seeing what people are doing, seeing what I like to share and what I like from other people that are sharing. And then once I personify my brand, and who I'm talking to, I try to make it like I'm talking to one person in particular. I'll just say, okay, a lot of brand advice would say the same thing, but I'll say, okay, I'm talking to whatever this fake person is that I've made up, and what would I say in my conversation with them? And it just makes it a little bit more human rather than just tossing it out into the void and hoping millions of people see it. I never want most of my accounts, I do not target 1 million people. I target maybe 100 people. And then I remember that if 100 people were coming in every single day to this brick and mortar business, that's great. That's a good start. That's who we want coming in. If there's 1,000 people, if there's 7,000 people, if there's 12,000, that's, we're starting to fill a stadium at certain points, right? That's great. That's a free way to get your message out there. But really, it's just, who are you talking to? Pretend you're talking to one person, start there, and then you'll start to see more. That person will start to multiply on a regular basis.
Yeah, and it comes down to quality versus quantity.
Yes.
And when we're using social media, there are a lot of things that make that challenging. So social media does have a lot of impact in our daily lives, and some of it very, very helpful, and some of it not so helpful. The comparison, the comparisons that happen, either upward comparison or downward comparisons, both very, very challenging for our mental health. And we tend to think of downward comparisons as actually helpful to us, right? Because they feel good, right? Well,
Yeah.
oh, well, at least it's not like that. And even those downward comparisons are very, very, they have to be very intentional. We have to be intentional and notice when we're doing those things, because as you're talking about intentionally building habits and habit creation, we got to acknowledge too that just like weeds in our garden, we might be intentionally growing corn in our garden or carrots in our garden, but we're unintentionally growing a lot of weeds.
Yeah.
And so in our habits, we might be intentionally trying to build a habit with social media for our business. And at the same time, we've got to be so aware that we're also probably unintentionally going to be growing some weeds with our social media
Right.
habits. And I would imagine that with small business owners and helping them kind of navigate social media for their business, there are going to be some challenges that come in that aren't specific to social media, but that show up
Yeah.
when it comes to that practice. So, the feelings of needing to produce, right? Needing to grow that, and having those comparisons
Yeah.
come through.
And I
How
like what you said there too with intention. You're saying that a lot, and that's I harp on that all the time. Have intention with why you're doing things. Like a lot of people are always thinking like, oh, I have to be on every platform. Like, oh my God, I need a TikTok, I need an X account, I need this. And no, why? Why do you? Like maybe you do, but why do you need it? And then let's talk about it. You might just need a profile, and it can just be a dead profile that says, hey, come find me on Instagram or something like that. But you don't need everything. But to your point, sorry to interrupt you there, but it was very much, I want to highlight what you said with intention more than anything else. Yeah, that's great.
Absolutely. And then how do you find that uh, that pressure to produce, right? That feeling of workaholism, which doesn't always get acknowledged as an addiction, but it's a strong one, and it's a socially like pushed one, right? So the same way that cigarettes used to be very pushed in everyone's face, right? You drink a coffee, you have a cigarette. That used to be how it was. And I feel like workaholism really does have that same hold on us, and has a hold on women in a different way than it has a hold on men, just looking at historically how women in work have had this relationship and had such a change historically, to where now we're kind of in that phase as females in the Western world, where we kind of have something to prove still, right?
Yeah.
And how does that show up in somebody's challenges when it comes to presenting their business or their idea or their platform on social media?
Yeah. Well, and in my space, I work with a lot of people. So technically, social media addiction hasn't been recognized yet, but tech addiction has. I mean, you're familiar with all of that, I'm sure. But so I work a lot in that space too, and I feel like it's the same thing either way for almost any addiction. The number one is recognize it's there. Recognize and like why it's so it's very much the same in that capacity. But I think what a lot of us always need to do, and it happens a lot when we are being intentional, but is recognize the benefit of the quiet and solitude for a moment. Because when you have intention going into things, you're recognizing that there is a purpose behind the action. So workaholism, to your point, or many forms of addiction. So again, tech addiction is where I'm working with a lot of the people, or I'm helping their children deal with it too, or like how to help their children through it. So when I'm just providing advice to them on just, well, this is why that's happening. Like this is what's leading them into it. But a lot of it is just saying, okay, well, what am I actually trying to do here? Is it actually the addiction? Is it a pattern that has just led us into it? Is it like, what is the reason behind why it's there? And then saying, okay, well, how, like, that this is an unhealthy behavior. How can I retrace my steps, take it back to actually create what I want to create in a healthy way? I don't know if that answers your question completely, but again, I mean, it really goes back to what you were just saying earlier, Dr. Johnson, but that it's intention and knowing the reason for why. Like, knowing your why a lot of the time will answer a lot of those questions. But setting up your day, setting up your habits, setting up your week so that you are going to be successful in actually achieving what you want to achieve. Most of the time, actually, you might not have quote unquote free time, but you'll be spending your time doing the things that actually benefit you rather than the busy work, rather than just posting for no reason to post. I suggest on a regular basis, for example, for social media, let's go back into that just because that's what I'm most familiar with. With social media, I almost always suggest that my founders post or just put half an hour time block. You can put a block on your calendar or on your, I mean, I literally have my app set half an hour. It warns me. It's like, you're out and I cannot get back in. That's it. And so it's kind of like a mind trick. I get my work done. I will get all of my posts done, all of my inspiration, everything in that half hour because I know what I'm looking for. I feel like I'm on a race to get it done. And it gets done fast. I mean, like you guys, I'm sure, are familiar with procrastination often happens because we can, right? Like, but if you have 1 hour to get the podcast out, you're going to get it done, edited, everything. You're going to like get it done in a hurry. Same thing happens with social media. So I have my people set X amount of time. Maybe they need a little longer when they're getting used to it, whatever it is. But let's say for me, it's half hour. I'm getting all of my inspiration done, all of my whatever done in that half hour. I'm getting the post live. I'll do my editing separate, but I'm not pulling in from external forces at that point. I'm not looking at other people's profiles. So that's a separate app intentionally, because then I have no excuse. Otherwise it's just busy work. It's getting lost in the void. It's like, and that makes me feel like I'm working because I'm scrolling, but I'm not. And so part of the time that's my workaholism problem is I'm just scrolling because I'm getting inspiration, quote unquote. But really it's just, let's be honest, I'm just looking at the next, weird TikTok trick or something like that. So yeah. So I think that those habits and setting your life using what you have available, timers. I'm the Pomodoro person. Some people are, some people aren't, but like I'll work for 50 minutes, break for 10. I intentionally do that so I can get into flow state and know I'm not messing up my day. But there's a variety of tricks that I think we need to do. But again, it all goes back to intention and setting your day up for success.
And I know that you told us you have a free habit tracker on your website for changing your relationship with social media. I'm assuming like that timer's on there. Are there other tips or tricks on there that would be helpful for people to know about?
Yeah. So a lot of it is, and that is primarily linked with that social media talk as well. So that is all because I want people to understand why they're doing the why, but it's taking the time. I think the main thing that is beneficial with that habit tracker and what most people have said that is beneficial is that they're actually taking the time. They're taking the 15 minutes to say, okay, what am I actually focusing on today? What are the 3 things I want to focus on today? But they're actually taking the time to do it rather than just sitting down at their desk, doing their to-do list, whatever they have. But they're actually saying, okay, well, what's actually going to move the needle? What do I actually need to spend my time doing? But it's almost giving people that safe space and giving them the permission to consider what they're doing more than just jumping in. I think that's the main thing. There are other tricks on there. So I kind of just shared out some things. Like I'm a big block and tackle person. It annoys my fiance to no end because I'm like, nope, we're doing, all of our vacation planning here. I'm not going to talk about it until Saturday. That's on the schedule. Like, stop tossing me on a Tuesday. That's fine, but it's going to go into the void until Saturday. I just don't know how to multitask. I can't even walk and text, like nonetheless, like, jump from habit to habit unless absolutely necessary. I understand there are definitely like, I get that there's like family and things that come up, but most of the time I'm block and tackle to the day I die. But then the big three, the eat the fry, it's a lot of the habits that I think a lot of people have heard these tricks. And I think a lot of people almost feel like shame on hearing these habits too, or the habit tricks, because they think everything's supposed to work to them. So if somebody doesn't block and tackle, that's great. And they love multitask. I don't care. Like, it doesn't work for me. Doesn't mean it doesn't work for you guys. I mean, like motherhood, I'm not a mother right now, but if somebody's a mother, they have to multitask sometimes. You don't have a choice. That's cool. I get it. If somebody hates the Pomodoro tracker, then don't do it. I don't care. Like, do what works for you. It's kind of like finding a counselor, right? So if somebody doesn't work with a specific type of, therapy or whatever, that's fine. There's others. It's a lot of it is individual, but with the habit tracker, I think the main thing that's beneficial is really giving people the permission and the space to explore that, find what works for them, so that they have intention going into their day and saying, this is what I actually need to focus on. But it's allowing them the space to take a step back more than anything else.
Oh, absolutely. And it's that it requires saying no to what feels productive.
Yeah.
So that we can say yes to what actually is productive. And the things that are productive usually don't feel productive at all. It's that first step towards this thing. And so if I say, well, I've got to write a keynote speech, and the first thing I'm going to do is create a Google Doc, that first step is the most productive thing we can be doing at that time. But so often that first step feels unproductive, right? It feels like a waste of time when we've got so much pressure on ourselves to write the book, right? So how can I be spending time creating a Google Doc and putting together a template for it, right? Or if I'm spending the time blocking out those times in my calendar and explaining to my family what's going to be happening, that can feel like a waste of time. And when something feels like a waste of time for us, that's where that multitasking can feel very, very tempting, because then I can get the thing done, but not feel like I've wasted time because I was also listening to an audiobook at the same time, right? I was also listening to a TED Talk while I did it. And so now I feel like I've been more productive, and recognizing that that's actually a feeling and not necessarily the truth of the situation. And we've got to be able to recognize, is this thing bringing value to me or not, regardless of whether it feels productive or not? Because the sooner that we can recognize that our own brains, one, what you said, we cannot multitask. We can't do it. If I'm walking and chewing gum, then I'm chewing gum less effectively than I would have been if I was sitting and chewing gum.
Yeah.
But that's always the example of successful multitasking, right? Is that, well, if I can walk and chew gum, I can multitask. But in reality, if I'm walking without chewing gum, I'm more effective at walking than I am when I'm walking and chewing gum. And so the sooner that we can recognize that temptation to multitask, and that we can say, it's a lie that I've been taught this from school. I've been taught this by my parents, right? Everybody that I know or work with, right? Every boss I've ever had wants me to be efficient in a way that isn't necessarily actually efficient. It feels efficient, but it's not.
Yeah.
We've got to say no to that, to ourselves. And that's a really hard thing to do. And so the same way that we might say, hey, I'm not going to buy those brownies at the store, because I will literally, like, I know myself well enough to know that they're not going to last the weekend if I did, right? The same way that we would do that, we block out our attention, because there's a lot of talk out there about budgeting money. There's a lot of talk out there and resources about, even now with time, about budgeting time.
Yeah.
But when we talk about social media, when we talk about doing things for our business and the thought work that goes into being a business owner or an executive at a business, we go from all the training that we've had our entire lives that says be good at doing things.
Yeah.
We have to completely relearn how to be good at thinking things.
Yeah.
And those
Yeah.
are
Love that.
completely different skill sets that we've really got to be intentional about doing. And people always laugh when I say, oh, I'm going to put that on my check-in with my husband. We work together, right?
Yeah.
We're parents
Yeah.
together. We live together. And I'll say, okay, I've got check-in with Joe next Tuesday. I'll talk
Yeah.
to him again because I'm not going to talk to him about a business thing when we're making tacos for dinner. Like there's just, I can't do that. It's going to mess me up because I've acknowledged that I can't do that, right?
Yeah.
We have to find our limits. And I think that being in a society where we've learned our whole lives, if you were born in like the late 70s, 80s, 90s, right? Especially if you were born in like the later middle 80s, early 90s,
Yeah.
you've been told you can do anything. You should
Yeah.
do everything.
Everything.
Because
Yeah.
you've got the opportunities, you've got the experience. You should be able to do everything. We've been told that our whole lives, and especially as women, because our grandmothers, our great grandmothers didn't have those opportunities.
Right.
And so there's a lot of pressure on us now to go, okay, but we do.
Right.
We've got to make the most of it. We've got
Right.
to be as big and as bright as we can. And the truth is, we don't have to be
Right.
if we don't want to be and if it doesn't serve us.
Well, and this is a prime example of that too. So last night I was at the Beyonce concert, Queen Bey, and I often hear that like, you have the same 24 hours in a day as Beyonce. And I'm like, no, you don't. No, you don't, honey. Okay, so she's got 3 kids. They're great. Love them. I'm sure they're wonderful humans. I don't know anything about them, except one of them's a very good dancer. She's in the background dancing with her and her little like 14-year-old self, somehow keeping up with professional dancers. Go girl. Love that journey for you. But that being said, I'm like, no, she has childcare. She has somebody doing her entire scheduling. She has somebody driving so she can be working while she's in a car. She's like, you don't have the same 24 hours a day. Stop trying to do it all. And it's like, to your point, you can't do it all. You're not going to. At the beginning of the week, stole this from Mel Robbins, fellow podcaster out there. What's up, sister? I don't have a podcast. You guys do, so your sister. And she says at the beginning of the week, she writes out every single task that you have to do, just spills, and sometimes even divides them up like home, family, friends, work, whatever it is. And sometimes, to your point, for both of you, actually, what you just mentioned was that sometimes the busy work, it takes priority because you feel like you're doing something. But so spill the mental things, spill the like, write down things for check in with husband on there. Write down those personal things too, because they do matter. And how can you allocate them? And over time, it does get easier to allocate time and to block and tackle as well. Because I know what's going to take me 15 minutes versus the 50 minutes, right? And then if you have, so say I slot for me, I love 50-10, but some people 25-5 for Pomodoro or 15 minutes, whatever it is, block it. And if I have extra time on my day, honestly, that's when I can do the random stuff. Like that's when I can do my scrolling. It's like a reward for myself. It's the ice cream at the end of the meal. Like, look, I did a good thing. I am accomplishing things. It's whenever I can do whatever I like want to do. But I literally will block time for laundry. Like, okay, this 5 minutes, it's literally just putting the clothes in the washer. And I don't necessarily need to write it down. I know that that's going to be on my task, but yeah, for me, I have to write down almost anything possible because that's the only way that I'm actually going to get it done. Like, so for example, I had listening to some episodes of y'all's podcast on my to-do list to do at specific times because I'm like, okay, well, I'll be driving. To be fair, maybe not driving as efficiently because I'm listening to your podcast. So I apologize to people on the road, but it was listening like, okay, during this drive, I know I have an hour. I'm going to listen to a couple episodes to make sure that I like know what I'm doing, but it's on my to-do list so that I am being productive, but also enjoying my day because I have free time in there too. I have free time at the end of the day. I literally block off, like, go out with friends, go to Beyonce concert. Like, that's on my to-do list, and it was fun. And that's a very type A trait. There's the type B people, or C, I don't even know what they're called. You guys would probably know. But like, there's the people that like hate a schedule. My mother is one. She cannot operate in that way. So she just needs the big three, and then she'll find time throughout the day to do the big three for her. More power. That would drive me up a wall, but you need to find what works for you, right? As an individual, and you're never going to know unless you give it a go, unless you try it out. Yeah. So she has like, wake up. First thing I'm going to do is, I don't know, edit her YouTube or whatever. So like those are her big three on her calendar, and she'll figure out time to do that and within her mindset. But to what I just said, I mean, not to repeat myself, but you're never going to know unless you give some of these things a try, these tips and tricks. Don't just listen to the podcasts, give them a go, and then see what works and what speaks to you, and what you can really do to make your day better, your week better, and your year better. But you're never going to know unless you give some of these tries.
Absolutely. And you talked about blocking in fun. I think that's such a important piece of it, because it's very tempting to think of fun and relaxation as a reward to ourselves. But the truth is that we don't have to earn a rest for our brains. We don't have to earn that.
Oh, that's huge.
We deserve that, and we need that. And I think our culture kind of makes most things feel like a rewards, right? Yeah. So like, even something as basic as drinking water, right? Or noticing that I'm breathing, I feel like I need to earn those things with behaviors, and not only with my behaviors, but with my outcomes, right? And my outcomes sometimes feel out of my control. And so when I feel like I need to earn things like time to scroll on Instagram, or, something like that, time off, then it is helpful to me to think of that as just something that I need. And something that I deserve to have. Because otherwise, what's the point, right? What's the point of being alive and living this life, and having these, 80 to 100 years or whatever we're going to have on this planet? What's the point if we don't do those things, if we don't earn them, right? Because then we're always earning it. We're always trying to get there, and we never will. There is no, for a certain personality, which I feel like you and I are very similar, I've never felt accomplished. In my entire life, I've never felt accomplished, right? There are these things that we go towards, and we say, once I do that, right? Once I hit that milestone, once I get that title or that name or whatever it is, then I can relax, right? Then I've earned the right to be a human who takes up space on this earth. And the truth is that it just doesn't work. We can't get good enough to feel that way. And so we've got to feel that way anyway, or else we never, ever will.
Yeah. And I had to work with my own personal therapist quite a bit on recognizing that, well, two things really. One, that I am my best self for others when I am my best self for myself too. So for example, I was really struggling at the time to fit in. I was like, oh my gosh, I just like don't have time to like work out. My anxiety I was having panic attacks. It was just like, I mean, I was going through a lot in my life at the time too, like big transition phase for myself. And my therapist was like, well, if you don't spend time working out, which helps you with your panic attacks, helps you feel your best, helps with your energy levels, you're not going to be your best for your job, your family, etc. So it was prioritizing that, but also the other thing that we had to work on, she was teaching me more about, and I'm sure it's, things that but that where you spend your time is showing what's important to you. And if you're not making yourself important, why do you expect other people to? So that was kind of a mind twist. She didn't put it that way. Of course, then he asked lots of questions until it led me there. I was like, oh my God, she's right. Why do I expect other people to prioritize me if I can't prioritize me? But it was something that was as simple as just slotting, an hour 3 times a week or whatever it looked like at that time in order to become my best self. But that's how I enjoy my day too. So to what you also mentioned there, slotting in fun. What do you think is fun? You might not even know what is fun to you right now, because I think it changes. Like, I enjoy knitting right now. I feel like a little grandma. I'm watching Golden Girls knitting. I am like having a wine spread. I could not be sore. We were watching a movie the other night, Nona's on Netflix. And my fiance was like, you do like old lady movies a lot, with the little old grandma. I was like, yeah, I feel like I can relate. Like, they're having a good glass of wine, enjoying time in the company of others, while knitting. That's literally what I want to do. That's what I think is fun. So I mean, just finding time to find what you enjoy doing. I was listening to one of your episodes. I believe Jaden, was it Jaden, on creativity, and there was an interesting point that was brought up that I actually talk about in one of my keynotes too, is being creative, about how creativity. So interestingly, and I didn't hear this mentioned, at least, but that there's a lot about training your brain to become more hopeful through creativity, because in creativity you have to adapt and change, and the picture may not end up exactly as you envisioned, but you were able to adapt and change and still create a beautiful vision. So it's one of the ways that we can train our brains to become more hopeful as well. So that was primarily, to create that keynote, I talked to psychologists, therapists, counselors, etc. But I also went all the way back to Greek mythology and, talked to sociologists and looked at the research studies, etc. So it was a wide, broad spectrum that I pulled that in, and creativity was constantly brought up. I am not a visually creative person, but it convinced me to get a guitar. And so now I play guitar, not well, but I love that I can create new chords and songs, and it's training my brain. And if it makes me feel better, because again, I'm type A, to feel like I'm doing something, okay, I'm literally strengthening my brain. And the other people might be like, it's just my time to play guitar, and that's great. And for me, it's, I'm strengthening my brain right now. So that's putting it on there, and call it what you need to call it in order to do it. Whatever that looks like. Yeah. But
absolutely. How do you think you got so good at planning your day and figuring out a schedule that works for you? Do you think that came from counseling, or have you always kind of been like that? Or where do you think that came from? So
I've always been a planner, it's just kind of innately in me, until my plan was thrown in my face. So I ended up getting a divorce, 2016, 17, something like that. It's far enough away that I don't remember the exact moment anymore, but it made me realize to be comfortable thwarting the plan as well. So when I talk about a schedule, a daily schedule, okay, so sometimes that's going to be thrown out the loop. I'm not going to schedule out every 5 minutes of my day, right? Brush my teeth, whatever. Sometimes I feel like I need to start with that just to get the ball rolling. But most of the time it's more so, okay, these are the big things I want to accomplish today. So it's being more allowing time for flexibility as well where we can, but also recognizing that there's a destination that you're trying to get to as well. And for me, that also involves slating time for planning and dreaming and gratitude and that kind of thing, because I recognize I am very bad, for example, at gratitude in a way of stepping back and celebrating an accomplishment or celebrating my friends' accomplishment. So I literally will in the morning take time to say, okay, like, is there somebody that I need to text or call today to like celebrate what they've done? But I have that on my mental plan, how I like to start the day. I start the day in quiet as much as I can. Sometimes it's waking up obnoxiously early, but just to have 15 minutes of, okay, like settle into your day. What do you actually need to get done today? Do you need to have flexible time today? And then also recognizing how I need to warm up my brain too. Like oftentimes I get very tired in the afternoons, or like, if I did have a very early day, like tomorrow, I think my day starts around 5, which isn't super early, but I'm like on the ball at 5. So that's going to be an early day for me. That's not for everyone. But for me, so, okay, I know I'm probably going to get tired at some point midday, and I need to slate like 15, 20 minutes for a walk, because that's going to wake me up, or a call with a friend or something like that. But just being a little room for, okay, there needs to be some space for breathing in order for that to happen too. But planning is in me. I have gotten off of the 5 and 10-year plans more than anything else, but I do have more of an overarching destination where I'm consistently trying to move towards, more of a vision. I do like vision boards at the beginning of the year. And I have that actually, I just make it in Canva. If anyone has Canva, it's a free thing. So I have it in Canva, and I put that as the backdrop on my computer. So I constantly have that vision. And instead of like, oh, I want to do, for me at least, it's not, I don't want a specific, talk or a specific client or anything like that. But I want my year to mean to me that I was outside more, or that I said yes more, or something like that. And then I'll take some space, intentionally to take some space on like a quarterly basis or something like that, to be like, okay, how am I doing? Do I need to adjust that? Do I need to adjust what I'm doing? But I also do really well with like landmark times in the year. So for example, for my business, this sounds ridiculous to most people probably, but I pay quarterly taxes for my business. That's how that's literally my mental threshold of like, okay, revisit, revisit now. But like I water my plants on Sunday. Like I don't know how not to. So it's like in my brain to do that more than it is like, okay, I need 15 minutes to water my plants. You know what I mean? But yeah, planning, it has always been in me. It's becoming flexible, adapting the plan that was not, if that makes sense. And I'm a combination of 2 very distinct parents. One, my mother hates a plan. She's very good at like leading things and that kind of thing, but she needs to be doing, like go, like literally moving, walking, traveling, something like that, in order to feel like she's productive. And then my father, same business for like 48 years, the finance brain, numbers, loves to sit it and like mold with numbers and that kind of thing. So it's 2 very distinct brains kind of coming together, and I've just kind of had to find what works for me, because otherwise I was getting advice on both sides. so it was a lot of change and adapt and see what works. I don't know if that answers the question. That was kind of a roundabout way to do it.
I think that one of the core barriers for so many people is this idea of fixed identity that says I'm either a planner or I'm not a planner, right? I'm either a free spirit or I'm an Excel person, right? And seeing other people do their planning and their time blocking and their lists and their right, and seeing that and going, well, that's not me because I don't do that. Or that's not me because somebody in my life put a schedule onto me at one point and I did not like that. Well, that schedule was not built for you because that schedule was not built by you. And so many people, I think, have this idea of, left to my own devices, I would never do anything. I have to trick myself into everything I do. And so recognizing that and acknowledging that and saying, okay, I am a person now who has learned to do the things that are helpful to me. The only reason I was able to learn to do those things, and then people look and they go, you're so organized. And I'm like, me, right? But because I'm doing the things that create that, the only reason that I was able to create those patterns or those habits is because I was open to the idea that my identity is not whether I'm a list person or not. Like
Yeah.
there's not identity in that. There's the temptation for identity in that, right? I'm a list person, I'm a go-getter, there's temptation for that. And at the same time, that's not at all who we are.
Well,
It's what we do.
and to your, I mean, kind of to answer to the both of those too is to the question that you just asked as well, Chrissa, but it was that what works for other people may not work for us, and being comfortable in that space.
That's right.
I mean, the amount of coaching, online coaching that we have right now is overwhelming, at least for me. Maybe I'm just speaking for myself. The amount of online coaches or people telling me how things are supposed to be done is overwhelming. And I often feel sad if somebody else's advice does not work for me. I think a big part of this podcast and about the advice that I have been constantly hearing is, well, that's fine. Adapt, or that there's different modalities, or that there's different ways that life can work for us that may not work for somebody else, right? An example from my own life is I have, so total, I run at least some form of marketing for about 12 different businesses at a time. Most people would give the advice, most business owners or whatever would give the advice that you need to have XYZ employees doing the writing and doing the work and meeting with clients and assign the client, et cetera. So I tried that for a while, but I realized why I started my business was I like working with these business owners. I like working with the people. So then I found myself managing from above rather than doing the thing that I like to do. And I'm like, well, that's silly. It doesn't make sense. That doesn't necessarily mean that I need to, completely ignore that. So what I have started doing instead is I'm like, okay, instead of that, I'll find somebody that's doing more the administrative. For me, that's where my employees are sitting, more administrative, but also my personal stuff. Like I can train somebody to help me with my personal stuff, but normally an employee would work from the business side, and then I have to train them on the business and that kind of stuff. I'm obsessed with the people that help me with my personal things, but they also know how to make doctor's appointments because they make their own. So it's great, and it's organizing that piece of life, but I still consider them my business employees because they're helping my business thrive by giving me more time and space and breathing room. But that's what I needed to do, and I wouldn't have known that if I didn't try it both ways, and make some, not necessarily mistakes, but things that didn't work for me. But it was listening to other people's advice that ended up getting me started on the ball rolling, but it didn't work for me. And I needed to be comfortable saying that too. Even what works for some of our closest friends and family members and stuff might not be what works for us. And that's okay. And I think meeting with counselors and that kind of thing, and asking those questions and being intentional in those answers, and really feeding into that was, and being comfortable in a safe space, not only at that time, but just having those conversations in general was something that really led me there too. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, if you could give a suggestion to somebody who's on the fence about starting counseling or starting online coaching, what suggestion might you give them?
Do it. I was like trying to think. I knew this question was coming, and that's all I could think of. So just to give a little bit of background too, and I'm very comfortable talking about it, but I've gone to see multiple counselors in multiple phases of my life, right? I mean, I started way back in the day. I came from a very interesting area where, like, the cool kids, this sounds almost weird to most people, which I didn't realize, the cool kids were all going to see therapists. And so I wanted to go. And I'm like, that's cool. That feels like, so that was when I was very young, like trying to fit in. But I realized that that's not always the case. over the time. But nonetheless, so I mean, I've gone to see different counselors of some sort for one was I had a fear of flying for a while. I even talk about that in one of my keynotes, a big fear of flying due to a kind of traumatic experience, a traumatic experience that happened in a plane in terms of just a bad flight and that kind of thing. I can go into more detail on that, but I had to work with somebody to help me with like the physical manifestations of that anxiety and working through that. I worked with a different one when I was like going through my divorce and egg freezing and those kind of like pivotal life changes. But honestly, now I just have one because why not? So if you can afford it, or if not, find some way that you can actually meet with somebody, because it does give you that safe space. And it's almost like that pocket of time. I know we were talking in the pre-show portion, but I have a specific chair that I sit in every morning. My fiance knows it as my prayer chair. I was like, stop putting your backpack on it. Because this is where I sit in the morning. And so I sit there, I do my journaling, I do my prayer time, that kind of thing. But that's also where I do my therapy. And it's like my safe space. Like, this is where I'm going to let emotion out. And that core space is like, okay, this is where we're going to do the unpacking. This is where we're going to do the intention. And I mean, there's been multiple other times, but those are just some key reasons that really drove me in to see a counselor in the first place. But now I just see that there's a benefit. Why not? At least get a check-in from time to time, because most of the time you're going to realize that you are grappling with something that you didn't even realize. And it gets you started answering the questions as well in your own mind. So for example, I was very frustrated with something my quote unquote fiance did the other day. And I sat down, and I'm so used to answering the questions, being like, okay, well, what does that mean to you? Was it actually something that was painful, or was it something that brought up something from the past? But I'm used to answering those questions because of my amazing therapist. And now I can tap into those myself and use them as a resource for myself as well. But then honestly, I have those check-ins as well, because there's going to inevitably probably be something else that comes up. So do it.
Really. I love it. I love it. I mean, all of that really does come down to we got to try it. Even if we don't expect that this one is going to work, we got to try it to know that for ourselves. And now it never has to take up space in our brain to say, maybe that would have worked, right? It never does, because we can say, that didn't, but it showed me that it didn't. So now I'm trying this other thing, right? And pieces of that worked. And so I'm bringing them with me. And now I'm doing this other thing.
Well, and do you mind if I bounce off of that too? Because the one other thing that I would add to that too, and perhaps this should also be my advice, if one counselor doesn't work for you, try somebody else. I compare them to, I mean, I've suggested some people go see therapists for various things, and they'll go talk to somebody that is not the style, the practice, etc. Because you guys have so many different niches and titles that a lot of us, random commoners don't understand, right? I don't even fully understand them. I've been going to see a therapist since I was like in 7th grade. So it's sometimes confusing, but if one doesn't work, try another one, try a different way, because inevitably somebody will work and it will help. So it's worth trying, a variety of different people and things and styles, because there's going to be, and feel comfortable. I hope it's comfortable. You're okay with me saying this, but feel comfortable changing as well if different seasons, if you need to, because you're a different version of you. So sometimes you need somebody else to talk to as well.
Yes, absolutely. Wonderful, wonderful. And I know that we didn't get a chance on this episode to talk as much about your personal journey, but it's because we got into what we were talking about and really enjoyed it. So we'd love to have you back on soon, Jessica, so that we can really dig into your story and hear more about that experience too. Anybody who's looking for coaching and counseling, and if you're a woman, a female entrepreneur, business owner, and you're looking for this support and you're on, I I feel like certain things didn't work for me and then I felt stuck, right? Look up Jessica, give her a try out. Let's see. Because a lot of these things are very, very helpful things and they're not things that we get taught about in school. So go to jessicatepaz.com. You can find Jessica there.
I'm Jessica Tepas, and I need a counselor.
And I'm Chrissa Hunt.
And I'm Julie Johnson, and we need a counselor.
And so do you.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to the You Need a Counselor podcast. We are so grateful that you're here. Now, we want to hear from you. Text us or give us a call at 515-650-3231. You can also find and connect with You Need a Counselor on Facebook and Instagram. If you've enjoyed today's show, please take a moment to like, review, or leave a comment, as all of these things help others to find and benefit from the podcast as well. If you're in the state of Iowa and interested in mental health counseling or behavioral health intervention services, give us a call at 800-531-4236.